How many of you would like to know one question that you can ask your partner that will totally transform your relationship? Hi, my name is Anna Ditchburn.
And I'm Laban Ditchburn.
And welcome back to another episode of Purpose Partners for Life.
So before we start today's video, we wanted to give you some context about our background. If it's the first time you've seen the channel, then this part's really important. So Anna and I, at time of recording, have been together almost 5 years. We've been married for 18 months, and we would have gotten married a lot sooner if it hadn't been for the restrictions of lockdown when we were stuck in Melbourne, Australia. We now reside in Tampa, Florida, and for the last 2 years, we've been on the road, bouncing from country to country, trying to find a place to live. When we first met, Anna and I got pregnant the first time we consummated the relationship, which was a couple of months in, and Anna made me wait for about 6-7 days before I could even kiss her, which is a great tip for all you ladies out there to keep the man certainly very interested.
It was actually about 1 month.
We went on a lot of dates in that month, but it was such exciting news when we found out that we were pregnant, because it was the first time that I'd ever had a pregnancy with any woman at all. And I was over the moon, because even from a very young age, I remember being about 6 years of age and telling my mum that I wanted 9 children. And we didn't even come from a Catholic or a Mormon background. And I remember the look on my mother's face when I said I wanted 9 children. So I was over the moon. I don't want to speak for Anna, but I know you were over the moon as well. And that over the moon very quickly crashed back to earth when we found out that Anna was having a miscarriage. And then that miscarriage turned into an ectopic pregnancy. Just quickly, an ectopic is when the egg and sperm fertilize and it starts developing in the fallopian tube. And 100% of those ectopic pregnancies are lost pregnancies, and they're also incredibly dangerous for the women. During that time, I was required to spend a lot of time with Anna at the hospital. There was countless scans. I think we had about 13 or 14 hospital visits. And my 2 co-CEOs of a very small boutique firm that I worked for were, let's just say, not very favorable to me being with an unmarried woman going through this particular challenge. And which was funny, because they promoted a big diversity, equity, inclusion with the company that they ran. And then when push came to shove, they weren't very accommodating at all. And the way that they treated me during that time was one of the greatest gifts that I ever received, because it gave me a huge prompt to force me to want to become an entrepreneur and work for myself, something that I'd been thinking about off and on for years. And when I had brought it up with previous partners, it was very quickly shut down and poo-pooed. So Anna is fresh out of surgery. She's still beaten up and bruised, such a trooper. We nearly lost her. And this is the woman that I knew I wanted to meet my entire life, but was beginning to think that I wouldn't. And at 38 years of age, I did. And I remember saying to Anna, darling, I'm really seriously thinking about going out on my own and creating my own business. And what did you say?
And I said, Laban, go for it. Because it just happened intuitively. Even before I met you, I've created this list of my ideal man, where I described it that he's bold, he's a New Zealander, he's very honest, very loyal, very courageous, with an amazing sense of humor. He doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs, loves traveling. And I also wrote that we are building our kingdom together.
Ooh.
And from the very beginning, I knew I have to trust this man. Whatever he would tell me, I will support him no matter what. Because throughout my experience, throughout my life, I've learned how important for men to be supported by his woman. From the very beginning, I trusted you. I trusted that no matter what, you will create this kingdom that I wanted for us.
And it was Anna's response, without any hesitation or holding back, that really gave me the confidence to go out and do this. And it was amazing that she did that, because in 2019, folks, that business was a total unmitigated financial disaster. And now I use that term for effect now, but at the time it was incredibly stressful. I was already pretty heavily debt laden going into when I first met Anna. And I walked away from a 6-figure job to go and create my own business. And I relied upon my cryptocurrency that I'd invested in with my 401k or super fund. And because I didn't make a single sale from the recruitment business, which is what I used to work in, I ended up having to liquidate all of my crypto portfolio, and I sold Bitcoin back when it was about $4,500 a coin, which is the lowest it had been for years. So to say we had challenges during 2019 is also a massive understatement. And it got to the point where I nearly filed bankruptcy 3 times. So we've been together for about a year and a bit. We've already gone through, at this point, we've had probably 3 or 4 miscarriages, and I'm not bringing any money in. And with my hat in hand, I humbly take a couple of other jobs working back for other companies. In February 2020, I took a job back with a recruitment company just to earn some money to keep us afloat, because thanks to some generosity from 2 amazing people in our lives, that gave us enough of a buffer just to not have to get evicted from our home. And, I was incredibly optimistic. I'd been in this role for about 7 weeks when COVID hit. And then all of a sudden, we're thrust into some of the strictest lockdowns of anywhere in the world. And because I hadn't earned any money back in 2019, I didn't qualify for any of the government payouts. So how many miscarriages were we up to by the end of 2019, do you think?
Well, 5.
So by the end of 2019, I had nearly gone bust a few times. We'd had 5 miscarriages. We'd moved in together, and Anna was only earning about 50 grand a year back there, which barely covered her mortgage payments and her bills on her side. And you can imagine my feeling as this man who had successfully overcome addiction in all its forms, and drink and drugs and gambling and sex and porn and all of these things. And I was doing everything in my power to be this strong masculine energy, and I was failing in my own thinking. And I remember having moments of weakness during those periods where the entire time Anna was this unwavering supporter of me. She saw something in me at times that I didn't see in myself. And in terms of how that allowed us to move forward from those challenges, gentlemen, I cannot stress to you the significance of finding someone that believes everything that you say. And I'm not talking about spouting lies or cheating, or I'm talking about someone that sees you for who you truly are. And if you are not that man that the partner sees, then you need to ask yourself the following question: who do I need to be in order to become the kind of person that my partner will believe everything that I say?
So the most important question, ladies, you can ask your partner that will totally transform your relationship is, baby, what is the most important thing for you in our relationships? What do you want from me?
Well, what a wonderful question. So before I answer that, I want to ask you, Anna, before you knew the answer, what are some of the things that you thought I might have needed but didn't?
I thought it's very important for me to cook the beautiful meal, to keep the house clean, to tell you how handsome you are, to look after myself, to make sure that you're attracted to me. Is it the case?
Well, those things certainly play a significant role, but it's not the thing. It's not the one thing that I needed, and I believe most men need in order to be really, really successful in their own relationships. The one thing that I need, and that I didn't know that I needed for such a long time, was you to believe in me 100%. for you to believe any crazy idea that I had was a good one, for you to look at me in a way that you trusted my intuition and the direction that my life was heading. Now, that might sound a little bit complex to people. Can you give us a breakdown of what you think that kind of means?
Men and women are very different, and it's not a bad thing. We are just very different, not only physically, but psychologically and emotionally and spiritually. We have different needs compare each other. And what I've learned about relationships and men is the most important is when you believe in them, when you show them that you believe that they can support you, that they can protect you, when they know that you got their back. And I didn't realize, I just knew it intuitively, but now I know for sure. If someone would tell Laban, like, your idea is crazy, you can't do it, he doesn't really care. If his mom or his dad would say, you know what, I don't think this works, he wouldn't care. But if I would say, you know what, this idea wouldn't work, it would be the end of the world. Because every time he would come to me and he would say, hey, Anna, I really want to write this book. What do you think? And I would say, go for it. And you know what is happening during this moment? They become unstoppable. Your man becomes so strong, so powerful that he can literally break the mountains. The most important women for them is when we believe that they are the best, the strongest superheroes in this life.
And for me, this wasn't always the case. In a previous relationship, we went for a walk yesterday and we were talking about a previous relationship that I had about 18 months before I met Anna. And this was someone that I, at the time, was the most lovely person I'd ever met in my entire life. And with the benefit of hindsight, it was a complete and utter mismatch. And I realized now that I had to go through that breakup with that former partner because they would have stifled me, because they were very risk adverse and they were very timid in their approach and had an employee mindset. They didn't really have the big hopes and dreams and aspirations that Anna had. And I know that would have finally ground me down if it had worked out, and it would have ended up in a divorce, and we probably would have had children involved at that point. So I'm very grateful for that experience, and it helped give me some clarity. And when I was writing my ideal partner as well, I had a lot of these attributes and characteristics that exactly Anna fit into, and it was someone that would support me unconditionally. According to studies, the 5 most stressful moments in any person's life are typically marriage, a death of a loved one, divorce, buying a home, and
children.
And children. So now we don't have kids yet, so we don't want to talk on that and stay in our lane. But if you can imagine going through the bankruptcy, almost bankruptcy stuff, the miscarriage and the ectopic stuff, the having to leave Australia.
And dealing with my trauma.
And dealing with Anna's trauma, and we'll link a video to another video that we've done that goes into a lot more detail about that particular story. So I want to give you another example of a great moment in my life that was a pure example of exactly what we're talking about here. So in 2021, Anna left to go to Russia for some urgent family business, and I ended up getting out and going to Germany. We were away for 7 weeks and we weren't allowed to go back to Australia for a period of 3 months. In that time that we were away, we decided that we were not going to go back to Australia. The only country that could accommodate us with what our requirements were was Mexico. And I remember saying to Anna, someone who'd never been to Mexico or even really knew much about the place, I said, darling, let's move to Mexico. And you said,
Yes.
go for it. Or
Let's
something,
go.
let's go,
Let's
right?
go for it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not always blindly follow Laban, but I just have this unshakable belief that his ideas will always bring us to the brighter future. It will always lead us to build our own kingdom.
And that has been really vindicated over the last few years because, you know, by our own comparisons to ourselves, we have achieved miracle after miracle after miracle. And the more that I've been able to lean into what my purpose is, what my alignment is, and really develop my career and my masculinity, the better our life has gotten. And don't get me wrong, we've still had periods of challenges there, but knowing how Anna has reacted in the past gives me a lot more confidence when it comes to making bold, brash, and outrageous, seemingly outrageous decisions at times. They might seem like insanity from the outside, but many times they are nowhere near as dramatic as what they are in our mind, and has ended up being a wonderful, loving experience. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I haven't regret even once for telling Laban, yes, let's go for it. Not even once. Even if we would have some challenges while we're traveling, moving to a new country, because, ladies, when you believe in your man, he can do unbelievable things.
Well, yes, we can. And it's only with the unwavering support of our incredible wives that you can really take it to the level of impossible. Another recent example I can share with you is that in February of 2023, we were back living in Mexico and we had an opportunity to go to India for an event. Now, bear in mind, just to backtrack a little bit, we have a 20-foot container full of all of our worldly possessions back in Australia, which we haven't seen since we left. Included in there is about 100 pairs of Anna's shoes, some jewelry, and some dresses that are irreplaceable. And, Anna has no shame in admitting that she misses some of that stuff and it just hasn't been viable to get access to that. So we rebuilt another kind of life in Mexico. And in February, we go to India for this event, and our landlady in Mexico offered to move into our apartment, but she said, hey, I need it for 2 months. And we said, hey, that's fine. We'll just extend our trip out to 2 months, travel around India and reconnect with some amazing people that we knew over there. Well, about 8 weeks into the 2 months, which is exactly the same time frame, we get a message from our wonderful landlady saying, I'm really sorry, I've just broken up with my partner. I need my apartment back. And we were like, okay. And all of our stuff was packed away. But we just said, well, I said to you, let's just extend our trip out to India. And what did you say?
I said, yes. I didn't know how we're going to survive. We didn't have enough money. We were stuck in a foreign country. We didn't even have money for the return ticket, to be honest. And our visa was only 3 months, lasting 3 months. But again, I just trusted you and I believed in you. I believed in you.
You did, but thank God, because we got ourselves in some real pickles over there. And it was mainly, just before we left Mexico, Anna had another ectopic pregnancy. I'm sorry to keep burdening this with you, but this is just the reality of what happened. And we had a whole heap of unexpected costs associated with visiting the emergency center over there. And you might think Mexico is an inexpensive place to get medical stuff done. Well, I suppose it's a little bit cheaper, but it still knocked us off for about $2,500 US, which in India goes quite a long way, if you can imagine. So anyway, we're in India, and then as things transpire, we need to come back to the United States for some work opportunities that I have here. And so at this point, we haven't had an opportunity to go back to Mexico to go get the rest of our stuff, which includes some shoes and some dresses and some things that you would really like. And just I have to give credit where credit's due, the way that Anna has handled that situation, because, women and their things you know,
Very attached to each other.
are very important. But you've never really given me any grief at all about not having access to that, and we've also got stuff stored on the other side of the country in Salt Lake City in Utah. So we're kind of spread out all over the world. And, this is just one of the byproducts of being on the road and traveling. And the trip to India ended up being one of the most incredible, life-changing experiences for both of us. And you were able to fulfill a childhood dream of visiting the Taj Mahal.
And if we would stay for 2 months, we wouldn't have an opportunity to visit all those beautiful places.
Correct.
And meet those amazing people in India.
So the point is, well, what am I saying? The point is, isn't it interesting what miracles you can create when you just lean into that intuition that you're talking about? Because I'm relying a lot on intuition as well when I'm making a lot of these decisions. And I tell you what, it's made a lot easier when you're able to figure out exactly what your reason for being on planet Earth is. And, that took me until I was about 39 years of age. I'm 43 now. And when you lean into what your God-given gift is, the universe will conspire to help you on that journey. Since we've arrived in the United States, we've been able to acquire the necessary legal visas to stay here. We've been able to move into a beautiful 3-bedroom house. We've got a car. We've got an incredible network of friends and entrepreneurs and mentors and role models in Tampa that we have been able to tap into that have just been incredibly generous and amazing with their time. And so this is part of the confirmation that I've been able to use to vindicate a number of the decisions that I suggested to Anna. Anna's gone along with the majority of them, and look at how things are ending up now. Isn't that cool?
It's miraculous.
So I want to flip this script around a little bit today. I want to ask you, what is the thing that you need from me the most in the world?
That's such a great question. And Laban doesn't know the answer yet. I think you've been doing this intuitively. But at the very beginning of our relationship, I told Laban that it's very important for me to have a man who can provide for our family, who can support our family, who can protect our family, and who can lead our family. And I'm not talking about, leading, like telling you what to do, ladies. I'm talking about leading by example. I'm talking about being strong, being masculine man. And so for me, it was very important to stay in my feminine energy and to support you on the emotional and spiritual level. For men, it's very important to be a supporter, a provider. And for women, it's very important to stay in your feminine energy, because that's where the problem in the relationship starts, when those roles start changing, when woman takes on masculine job and man becomes more in his feminine energy. That's where the miscommunication and misunderstanding and intimacy challenges start happening. We are, as a woman, we are like a container. Whatever man gives us, we take it and we nurture it and we help it to grow, and then we give it to them in a much bigger amount. It's like with a baby. You give us a seed and we give you a baby. You give me a protection and I give you the whole joy in the house. Because Laban,
so sexy.
Laban, being in his masculine role, was allowing me to stay in my feminine role. And that's, I think, what is one of the most important things for men, is when his woman is very feminine and she enjoys herself. She has an opportunity to possess joy, possess happiness, possess peace and calmness that she can cultivate in her and then bring it back to man. Because we are exchanging our energies all the time. And how we exchanging our energy? through sexual connection, through sex. And whatever your woman is filled up with, she gonna give it to you in 10x to fill you up. That's why when women are in a state of unfulfillment, judgment, unhappiness, and that's what you fill up your men with, and that's what you're getting as a cycle between each other. Everything starts with the women. Ladies, men cannot get energy from anywhere. He gets his energy only from his woman. Women can get the energy, this positive energy, from watching the beautiful movie, from smelling the flowers, from spending time with your girlfriends. We are accumulating this energy from everywhere. And then we pass it on to our men. Men need us to get this energy to go and create a business, life, protection, security for us. That's why when woman is not in her feminine energy, in her low resources, men go and look for those resources somewhere on the side. That's why so many men are cheating, because they are lacking the energy from his woman, from his wife. Am I right?
Yeah,
When
you
you're
are.
unfulfilled in your relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe I think a good example you could share was when we were fortunate enough to bring on Dr. John Gray onto my own podcast. And it was the first time that I'd ever invited Anna to co-host with me. And for those who don't know Dr. John Gray, he's the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus book series. He sold 150 million copies of his books. And if you go and talk to your parents or even your grandparents, you'll find that at least one person has read his book. And do you remember the question that we asked him around the feminine masculine energy challenge? Because at that time, I wasn't able to earn any money. This is in 2020. And we were relying on Anna's income for a short period there to get us through. And the energy, the dynamic shifted in the relationship, and it was causing a bit of friction on both ends. Well, Dr. John, this is a real thrill, and the first time that we've included the beautiful Anna Maidanova on the podcast, which I think our fans will be very excited for. And given the topic of today's conversation, no more pertinent time in the world, I think. I'd like to start off with a tricky one for you, if you're up to the challenge.
That's great.
So during the lockdown, John, I was made redundant and I lost about 85% of my earning capacity during that time. And whilst we were able to manage, towards the end there, I became dependent on Anna to fund some of the major overheads in the household. And it did disrupt the dynamic of our relationship at times. And I was curious to know how you might explain what went on there.
Well, I have a really nice, you can explain anything from many different points of view, right? So in my most recent book, I've got a lot of my books over there, but one's called Beyond Mars and Venus. And I'm helping people understand how men and women are different in terms of their biology. And the biology is set when you're born. As a male, you require 10 times at a minimum, 10 times more testosterone than a woman to experience well-being. And when your testosterone is low and your estrogen is high, that's the female hormone, your cortisol levels get produced, and that's called stress. And that interferes with feeling affection and warmth, okay? So when your hormones are out of balance, you can't feel affection and warmth. For a woman, when she feels taken care of, supported, she can get what she needs, that produces estrogen. She needs to make 10 times more estrogen than a man in order to feel warm and friendly and to be optimistic and to see the good qualities. And if her estrogen goes down, usually at that time, her testosterone goes up. Estrogen is receptivity. And if you feel like I can't get what I need, then a woman tends to go automatically over to her male hormone. Well, I'll do it myself. I've got to do it myself. And that's something that you've just described, is when a woman is used to getting a certain kind of support from you, that produces testosterone. And but more importantly, your work, your earning capacity as a man is your major source of testosterone. There's some other speakers like me that talk about men are really not suitable to be in an intimate relationship if they can't provide enough for themselves. You have to find your own generation of testosterone happens through work, through accomplishment, through achievement, through self-esteem. It has a lot to do with doing things and getting a result from people that you don't love. Okay, you can love them, but it's kind of a conditional love. Conditional love stimulates testosterone. When you go out and you do your work, I love doing my work, but I also do it for a result that's going to produce income. There's a result I want to see. And then I can give it to my spouse unconditionally. And then I get a kind of royal response, which is true appreciation and love and intimacy. But women require, in order for their estrogen to go up, they require to feel a higher degree of he's giving to me than I'm giving to him. And so you had a dynamic in your relationship because you were not looking to her to boost your ego. You had your work, to put it in simple terms, boosting ego. You want to feel like, hey, look what I can do. That's a man. Superhero. I can accomplish this. And in our society, it could be in different things in other societies, but it's reality. When you're making money, you feel like a superhero. And then you make your wife happy, more superhero. Or your fiance or girlfriend, whatever, but you see, that's the add-on for a man. I become happier when I can do something on my own, and then I can provide for her. So it took a dent in your ego and your sense of self-worth in order to suddenly you're making a certain amount, you're working, and now you're not, then your testosterone tends to go down, particularly if you were used to being a certain level of superhero in terms of finances. Now, women need to feel the biology in a man of high testosterone. There's research that shows that when a man's testosterone is higher than the average, it raises a woman's estrogen. And whenever a woman is stressed, it's because on a hormonal level, her estrogen levels are low. On a behavioral level, she's feeling, I have to do everything myself now. It all depends on me. She starts to feel overwhelmed. And biologically, she can't experience that normal level of unconditional love that she has for you. The tendency to have complaints or to not be as happy as before will be there. And it's like a shock. And it's happening not just to you, but all over the world right now. The two of you are in the lucky stage of engagement. So just that you get free hormones when you're engaged. Okay. There are free hormones of newness. But for couples that are married, they're having a big trouble here, because if men don't have that testosterone produced, which makes you feel like a superhero, you can't rescue the damsel in distress. As sexist as that sounds, it's really about men providing for women. And when I know you don't think it's sexist, but I'm making sure other people know that that's what people call sexism. If I treat men and women as different, but women need to feel they can lean on you. You're their backup system. Like right now, you're behind her. That sense of I'm your backup, I'm your support. And the problem for women is they can become too needy at this time as well, because they depend on you for backup, but they also need a life. I think you really only need a man for 10% of your support. It's like dessert. You have to have a main meal and then you get dessert. He's dessert. But if you don't get your main meal, dessert isn't satisfying. So that's one of the challenges that you're facing, couples are facing today. And other couples, even when you don't have lockdown and all this, there's people being out of work and so forth, just when a man doesn't make more money than his wife, it's a challenge. And it's not that you can't overcome that challenge. That's what I teach, is how to overcome these challenges. But I see the passion going very quickly out of relationships where the man stays home with the children and the women are out making money. And they do it because it's a logical thing. Women today, if they're educated, often can make way more money than men. And you have a family. So it's only logical he stays home and takes care of the kids, which produces female hormones. And she's out making money, which produces testosterone, male hormones. And then they go, where's the chemistry? What happened? What happened? And there's solutions, but first I need to talk about the problem.
Well, I think that's a pretty damn good explanation, John. And I think Anna has a question next that will help round out a lot more of the scenario that's been going on. So maybe I could pass it to you, darling.
John, I'm just interested. I do feel like I'm lack of energy. What would you recommend for female to do in this situation? How to bring this energy back? How to support your man in this situation if it's happened, if he lost his income?
But I'm going to challenge you here to share a little bit more. I hear the question, and I would like you to define a little bit more as best you can. A lot of people can't answer this question, which is, would you define that female energy for me?
When you feel light, when you feel yourself happy no matter what, when you love yourself and your man unconditionally, when you have energy to do something, to create, you want to smile.
All right, you hit it. That's it. Yeah, perfect answer, and it's amazing. It came right out of you. That's the feminine energy. Not everybody identifies that as feminine energy, like I'm smiling right now. That's feminine energy. But I also have my male energy, which is I'm focused, I'm committed, I'm doing my work. This is my job. I want to save the world or help the world at least. That's the male energy, superhero. I'm out there making a difference, but I'm smiling. That's my female energy. And I want to have both those energies. And so let's see female energy for the people listening to know that that smile, that feeling of he's dessert, he's unconditional love, that gives you a sense of freedom to give, not a burden to give. When I look at, see, I'm doing this 50 years and seen a lot of couples who are in love, had a great relationship and went downhill because they didn't understand how to nurture each other's differences. We are all alike in certain ways. And when you're in harmony between your male and female sides, it feels like we're just the same. However, we are different. Biologically, we have different needs. And you need, I'm a woman and I'm not feeling that female energy. I'm not smiling. I'm not feeling light. I'm not feeling a sense of abundance. And I'll add to that a sense of happiness that comes from havingness. Sometimes you order something online and it comes in a package. You go, oh, look what I have. there's a funness, almost like getting a Christmas present. You go, oh, I'm unwrapping my present. Look what I have. Havingness is a very part of feminine energy. Also why it may sound too materialistic, but I recommend to women often when you're stressed, go shopping. And see, it doesn't, you don't have to buy expensive stuff either. It's just go shopping and actually getting a good deal. My wife would go shopping and she'd always go, oh, and I saved this much on this and I saved this much on this. That also is a way of increasing estrogen. It's a very feminine energy that wants to save this and save this and save this. These companies, they still send out coupons, save 15 cents on this soup and save 20. And a guy goes, who cares? Generally speaking, but for a woman, it's these little things. And so for your relationship, in any relationship where the woman is missing some of the feminine energy, which we define a smile, a happiness, a freedom to give, a not feeling a burden to give, not feeling like I have to give to get something. You see, that's the trick to this is when women are not getting, then they start giving to get. And then they come to me as a marriage counselor and I say, what are the problems? And they say, I give and give and give and I'm unhappy. And I go, why are you unhappy if you're giving all the time? Isn't it better to give than to receive? And they say, yeah, but I don't get anything. Oh, I see, you're giving to get. And that's what you have to realize. It's like a wake-up call. I thought I was being so loving. I'm being a woman now for a moment because I'm giving all the time. But actually, if you're giving to get, it's not unconditional. And that's the romantic experience, which you describe, free and giving, as opposed to feeling unhappy, which, if somebody wants divorce or whatever, usually it's the woman who says, and this is interesting, kind of set me on my path of really understanding differences between men and women. Women will almost always say, I give and I don't get back. And I go, wow, that's so interesting. Why would you keep giving if you're not getting back? That was my thought as a man.
It's so
Because
common.
it's so women. Whereas a man, when he comes and he wants a divorce, I say, what's the deal here? I'll take him to the side. And if I take him to the side and she's not there, I say, what's the bottom line? Men have a bottom line. They say, John, no matter what I do, it's never enough to make her happy. That's all we want, really. Now, if they're in the same room and she starts to complain, he'll complain back. Okay. Yeah, but you don't do this. Well, you don't do that. And men they're playing tennis with you. They're playing ping pong with you. A man can always hit the ball back. Okay. Because what happens is when you're on your dissatisfied female side, if he's having sex with you and he's intimate with you, he's one with you. So when you go to your dissatisfied female side, his brain will mirror that, almost the way a child mirrors the parent. But if you're upset with him, he'll now become upset with you. But if you take him away from the woman and you say, hey, connect with him, what's the bottom line here? He'll tell you the bottom line is no matter what I do, it's not enough to make her happy. She's always complaining. She's dissatisfied. She's not smiling. And translated into hormones, biologically, you can measure her body and her estrogen levels are too low. And biologically, you can measure that man's body, his testosterone levels are too low and his estrogen is too high. Whenever a man is dissatisfied with his partner, that's a negative emotion. His estrogen levels are going high and his testosterone is going down. Now, if his testosterone is up, you've got a job, you're feeling good, your wife's in a bad mood, you don't mirror it because you've got enough testosterone. But if it's down, there's a reactive tendency that happens. So women have so much power to transform a man if they just understood their power. It's that feminine energy. So how to use him to increase your feminine energy.
Link would be in the description. But answering your question, Laban, for me in our relationship, it's very important to see you being in your masculine energy. For me, it's very important when I know that you can provide the security for me, the protection for me. And whether it's a financial security or physical security, feeling secure and feeling protected by you, and that you can do it no matter what, is so important for me.
Was a good example of when I took all that time off to support you when you were in hospital. Was that a key moment for you?
Exactly. Having you by my side was one of the main catalysts for me knowing that you are the right man for me.
And thank you for saying that, by the way. And it makes you realize that the two bosses and the way they behaved, like if something had happened to Anna, they might have given me their condolences, but they wouldn't have cared about anything. And really, not trying to hate on anyone, but that's the reality of the situation. People have got their own stuff to worry about. And so I don't regret for a minute the action steps that I took to do that for you. It wasn't like I was trying to win brownie points. It was just a natural, reactionary, evolutionarily driven protection mechanism. And what's really interesting is all of my previous relationships, I came from a real place of feminine energy. In fact, it sickens me to say this out loud, but we've spoken about this a lot. I dreamed for quite a few years that I was going to meet a rich woman and she was going to provide for me, because that was a lot of the behaviors and the observations that I picked up from my father. And I love my dad, and I've forgiven my father for all that he's done wrong. But that was just where I was at with my thinking. And it was through the process of learning and reading about the things that make a relationship successful, I realized I was doing the complete opposite, not even just slightly wrong, the complete opposite to drive these relationships into the ground. And if Anna and I would have had a future together, then I needed to completely shift that thinking. Now, thankfully, I had done a good job of doing that before we met. It was only after meeting this beautiful Russian, 3/4 Russian, 1/4 Japanese woman that had come from observing traditional masculine roles that she was able to refresh my memory and make it very clear from a boundary setting point of view that was something that was super important. And that was a sacrifice that I was willing to make, instinctively knowing that it was going to be better for me as a man. I wasn't doing it necessarily for Anna. I was doing it for myself first, and the byproduct would be the beautiful, loving response that I got back from you. And one other thing I would say is that it doesn't need to be the man just provides 100% of the income. Like if you are both working, you've got to work out what that dynamic is. But there was a wonderful example of Anna using her own money later down the line, which was the result of a divorce settlement, that she paid for my book to be published. And it wasn't like there was a lot of spare cash lying around. I didn't ask her for it, but she didn't even volunteer. She said, like, we've got this. And I was able to receive that wonderful gift, knowing that it was going to be a huge catalyst for, the springboard for my career and giving credibility as a speaker and, as a coach and that type of thing as well. And now you're writing, near finished your book. And I've been able to contribute by some of the relationships that I've been able to form with people that are far smarter than us in this space and have given us resources and time and mentorship that's going to make Anna's book infinitely more successful than mine ever was in the early stages, because we have completely different strategies about how the book's going to be launched, who it's going to serve, and how it's going to help them.
Mm-hmm. I've made a pretty good investment.
So, speaking of books, what is your book about?
Oh, it's going to be a very, very interesting and powerful book. And it's all about how to find your dream husband. Because I've learned so many things while I was looking for you, Laban. And now when I'm a hypnotherapist and I help my clients to find their dream partners, I can see so many mistakes that women make while they are looking for their dream partners.
Are you able to share what some of those are as a wee teaser?
Some of the common mistakes I can see in women is the first one, they actually don't know exactly what they want. And as I mentioned in this video at the very beginning, I was very specific about who I want, how my man looks like, what are his main attributes, how do I feel next to him, how he feels next to me, what's his relationship with my family, what my relationship with his family, how we communicate. For me, it was very important that my man didn't have children and wasn't married before, because I wanted to start from the beginning. So many women want something nice, or as long as he is kind and wealthy. But it doesn't work like this. Imagine you're coming to the restaurant and the waiter comes to you and he asks you, what would you like? You don't say, oh, bring me something nice as long as it's red color. And he would bring you, I don't know, a piece of dirt, red color. And you would be like, that's not what I wanted. And that's where
strange restaurant, by the way.
and that's where many women make a mistake. They are not specific enough. But when you say, I want steak, medium to rare, with mashed potato on the side, then the waiter takes your order, goes to the kitchen, I call it universe, makes this order for you, and the waiter brings it back to you. And he, because he knows exactly what you wanted, he is not confused. So this is one of the main challenges women have in finding their partner. And then there is also many things connected to women's past experience. It's a belief that there is no man that she wants, that she's not young enough, or she's not beautiful enough, she's not skinny enough. Ladies, it's all in our head. The man that you are looking for is looking for a woman exactly like you.
There was another thing on that list that you had to change a little bit later, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah. I wrote that we are having a mind-blowing sex 2 times a day. like a couple of months later, I have to go back and cross it over because it was getting too much. We would like literally have sex on the car park, in the at my workplace, at your workplace, where we
Thankfully, I'm not working there
fought once, like ridiculous in fitting rooms.
So you can see why we've had so many of these miscarriages. We just, anytime there was an opportunity to get pregnant, we got pregnant. But this was really significant because the analogy about the restaurant is so powerful. But whenever this, not whenever, but oftentimes when this is brought up to people that maybe haven't found the kind of relationship they want, they find it impossible to believe. And, you know, the same people will write down very specific goals about what they want to achieve in their own business life and in their own health, maybe. But then when it comes to a partner, there's a lack of self-esteem and self-belief, maybe from being on the receiving end of a pretty nasty divorce or a nasty breakup, or witnessing some pretty traumatic stuff from their parents when they were growing up. And it's really significant that you, at first, whatever you believe, you can conceive. The power of manifestation is completely underrated in today's society. And whether you believe in this or not, you are going to be ignorant if you don't try it and at least give it an opportunity to work. Because without it, you are really going to be flying blind, and the likelihood of you finding someone that you really want to be with long term is going to be infinitely smaller.
And if you want to create a deep, meaningful, loving, and healthy relationships, you need to understand first what you want in these relationships. What are you expecting from your partner? And then learn how to communicate it to your partner, because there is nothing more important when you are fulfilling your own needs, and you can fulfill your partner's needs when you know what they are. Because some of the things many women do sometimes are not necessary. Sometimes man doesn't need it, or woman doesn't need it.
And don't get me wrong, I really appreciate and love when Anna tells me just how handsome I am, and when she cooks and cleans up and folds and irons and washes my clothes and sews a button on my suit, whatever it might be. I really do love that. But fundamentally, that is complemented by her and this unwavering belief in the decisions that I make and suggest. And I always like to propose the idea, but more often than not, the intuition and the decision's already been made subconsciously, I think. And then you're like, go for it. And then it just roars into action. And well, let's give a quick example or two of maybe something smaller that you can push back on gently.
And a quick example of things when I push back is when Laban chooses the route, how to drive from A to B, for example, and I can feel intuitively that there is a better way to go to the destination. And I would tell him always gently, Laban, what if we try this way? And in the situations when he would proceed, because he's using his logic, he would proceed and we would get lost. Instead of telling, oh, I told you this, I would never say that anymore. I would say, you know what, that's such a great opportunity to see the new places. It's like it feels like a mini excursion in the city. Firstly, it avoid the conflict. Secondly, it avoid me feel like frustrated and angry. And thirdly, he later realizes, you know what, I probably should listen to Anna.
It's such a beautiful, gentle way of avoiding unnecessary conflict, because a lot of this context is we've been driving in totally foreign cities and foreign countries and relying on GPS, and sometimes it's not always 100% reliable.
Yeah.
Depending on
Again, because we are different, men actually are using logic to get something done. Women use mostly intuition to get something done. And what Myron Golden told you about the logic?
Gentlemen, pay attention. Use the logic on yourself, not on anyone else. Use the logic on yourself.
Yeah, because if you expect your woman to use the logic, why do you even need a woman?
This was one of the most enlightening revelations in our relationship. Thankfully, I've been doing it pretty well, but in watching Myron Golden, who will link through to his YouTube channel as well, he's a wealth creation expert that uses biblical principles. It's not a religious thing. It's this incredible, unbelievably successful guy who's become a mentor and somewhat of a friend to us as well. So this is part of the reason we moved to Tampa, because proximity to high quality human beings is part of really our love languages, and to achieve the stuff that we want to achieve. So there's a number of nuances to this. There's way too much to be able to include in a video of this length, but by subscribing to this channel, you'll get access to more and more of these videos where we'll delve deeper into the nuances, the intricacies, the ups and downs, the challenges that we have and how we overcome them. We are never purporting to be perfect in any of this. And, it's funny that when we get ready to record these videos, sometimes we end up getting a little bit stressed out because we really want to deliver truthful content that's helpful. And then sometimes you just kind of go a little bit blank and you've been doing it for the whole 5 years. So,
but Laban, I want to talk about what to do in a situation when you just don't feel like asking this powerful question, your partner, because you feel like nothing would really change. So, babe, how do you think what to do in this situation where one of the partners are not willing to change or being receptive?
Well, I think it's a very dangerous place for the relationship to be in, because as soon as you cut off communication for fear of retribution or for fear of being shut down, that's when things really spiral out of control. So you need to put on your big boy pants and figure out a way to overcome that by changing how you are and how you show up, because trying to fix or change the partner is a huge waste of energy and is only going to infuriate the other person. So you have to lead by example and ask yourself, well, what am I doing that when I'm reacting that's causing my partner to shut down, and vice versa? And thankfully in our relationship, we have a very, very open dialogue and we're able to have the more difficult conversations. And just a little side tip as well, if you want to talk about something challenging in the relationship, go for a walk. Go for a walk side by side, because there's plenty of science and data that backs up that is a very non-confrontational way of getting things out in the open. You're also creating endorphins from walking and moving your body around, and it'll be a much less confrontational way of doing things. One small example I can give you is unrelated to Anna and I. As I resigned from my recruitment job in 2009, I got headhunted to go to a competitor. And when I told my boss that I was resigning, he took me for a walk. And it was a very tense situation, but it was made infinitely easier by us going for a walk side by side. So if you haven't done that, go and try that out. One other thing that we find is really good for fostering a lot of love and romance in our relationship: when we go out to eat, we sit beside each other. We don't sit across from each other unless there's no other seating. We sit beside. We love to share each other's food, and if you don't like sharing food, then figure out a way to make that work, or just set some clear guidelines that if you're not sharing your food with your partner, where else is your relationship falling down? Is what I want to know.
And it's very important to communicate with your partner from the place of love and abundance rather than fear and scarcity. If you feel like you're not ready to talk to your loved ones, find someone who went through a similar situation like you, or find someone professional who can help you to firstly heal yourself. Because if you don't like output, you need to change the input. If you having challenges with your loved ones, it means there is something inside that you are reflecting back in the outer world. Change your input, change your perception of the situation, change your attitude of the situation. If you need to find a psychologist, counselor, or hypnotherapist, and first heal yourself so you come from the place of strength, do it. It's always worth it. And you might finally find the courage to leave those relationships and find someone who you can spend the rest of your life in love and happiness and joy. You might just outgrow each other, but maybe there is just something small you need to tweak that will exponentially change your relationship. And that's why this question is very important, just to check up on each other and ask yourself a question: who do I need to be with my partner to have this loving and meaningful and healthy relationships? One of the things we are doing with Laban most of the time is, especially for me, before I come home, I ask myself, who do I need to be today as a wife with Laban to have an amazing night? And most of the time, the answers would come: just relax, just calm down, bring the joy to him.
And folks, taking some time to really think this through and coming up with really solid solutions by taking advice from people that have achieved what you want to achieve is a lot better use of your time and money than going through a divorce. And even if you do end up separating and breaking up in a much more healthy manner, then the impact that will have potentially on children and on the finances, if you don't have to go through a bitter divorce ceremony or a bitter divorce proceedings, is going to be infinitely better. So we're not saying that you need to remain with your partner if the core alignment is completely off and you're allowing your boundaries to be overstepped, and there'd been infidelity or things in that relationship that are irreparable, or heaven forbid physical violence or verbal violence that really makes you feel unsafe. We're not encouraging people to stay together, but if your relationship is salvageable and you believe that they are your purpose partner and they believe that you are their purpose partner, some things are worth fighting for. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
You deserve all the happiness in the world. And we meet a lot of really incredible people that have all the wealth, they have all the material possessions, they have the children, but they have a real gap in their relationship, and there's often resentment towards each other and
unfulfillment,
and the intimacy drops off, and then that can drive people to infidelity and all kinds of crazy stuff. So there is a big consequence to not taking the time to work on this, and it's something that you need to continually work on. But I promise you, from a male perspective, having someone like Anna in my life has been the single greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm able to bless Anna back with the energy and the momentum that I'm creating for my stuff because of the support that I'm getting from Anna. And maybe we should talk about our upcoming event for Purpose Partners for Life real quick.
Yeah.
Davai means yes in Russian, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So in the description, there's the link to our 5-day challenge. We will be running these on a monthly basis. Now, the kind of transformation you can expect after attending one of these events is absolutely mind-blowing. When you start to see what we will be teaching in this challenge, the link between a really successful relationship and unlimited financial abundance and fulfillment in the work that you are doing, it will blow your hair off. And I know because I had hair before this started and now it's gone.
Before it blows.
So you can go to purposepartnersforlife.com. There'll be a link in the description here below, and you can register for that at a time that suits you best.
So we hope this video was very helpful. If you like this video, please subscribe and like and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. If you don't like it, okay.
Let us know why.
Let us know why. Yeah. And if you have your own tips and tricks about how you keep your relationship alive and loving and meaningful and deep and healthy, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.